From iRacing's virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 13 of the 2024 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. We march into the summer stretch of this NASCAR Cup Championship, and we have had three different first-time race winners on the year in the last 3 weeks. Tonight, we see if that continues here in New Hampshire. And as always, happy that you're with us on RaceSpotTV with our producer downstairs, Joshua Lee, and Derek Watson. My name is Evan Pasoko. Qualifying is underway now, Derek, and I preface that note that I mentioned three different first-time winners in the likes that Cody Harris, Matt Danson, and Michael Araya all entering the playoffs with race wins in the last 3 weeks. But what do they all have in common? Well, they're all a part of that A51 Pro X Altus Alliance. That team hasn't lost a race since mid-April. So while they're spreading the wealth amongst their team, that group continues to be dominant.
Yeah, and a team standing, they must be proud of the work they're doing and very proud of, how hard they're working here. Look at the point standings. You said Agno Phillip up here with 6 wins, Bradley Burke with 2, and there's Lariah with 1, Karras with 1, Manazzi Major on down, and then Matt Danson. There's your 6 race winners for the season. Then you see the points battle down below, and then, of course, Evan, there's that cut line back at P16. 21 points separates Grant Davis and Braden Whitaker.
And it's worth noting that there was a rule change over the last couple of weeks. Drivers only need to maintain now a top 25 in the standings for a race win to count towards playoff eligibility, no longer a minimum start requirement. That could be interesting as we work through these summer months. And it is going to be a bit of a broken up calendar for the next month and a half, Derek. We were just talking about this pre-race. We got Nashville in a week, then a week off, Pocono, and then a return to the Oval at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, then a couple of weeks off, and then it is non-stop action for the final 3 races of the regular season in Richmond, Michigan, and Daytona, all the way through that championship race in Phoenix without a single week off.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm here for it. I'm excited. I'm excited to go back to Indianapolis. That's the one that's already marked on my calendar as a must-see. I want to see how these next-gen cars are going to drive around the Brickyard.
For the longest time, New Hampshire Motor Speedway was not on the calendar in this series, but it made a return last year. That race was won from pole position by Kevin King. It was a dominant performance for him. He's obviously not competing here in 2024. You look to the next man up. Well, Agno Phillip had 21 laps led, but on to finish second place in that race. He has been the dominant car. All signs would seem to indicate maybe he's a driver to look for tonight. He was fastest in practice. Michael Araya, last week's winner, would like to go 2 in a row, but Peter Irons, who is relatively new to the series in the 1 car, he was second best in practice. He could be a surprise name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, a couple of surprise names to keep an eye on here. And with this not being on the calendar recently, this could be another track like Iowa where we might see a surprise contender or two sort of rise from the ashes and surprise us with their knowledge of this track. So I'm excited to see how we get going here. 151 laps is what we're up for tonight.
It is not going to be a short one by any stretches. We race around this 1.058 mile of a racetrack. Tonight's race distance going to bring us just over 159 miles start to finish at the Magic Mile. On board with Brett Larson as we continue through single car qualifying. I mentioned Peter Irons could be somebody to look for, second best in practice. Right now he holds the best spot with a 39.65 with just over a minute left on the clock. All these drivers get 2 timed laps. You're on board with Brett Larson. Larson on timed lap number 3, so this one won't even count for a lap time for him. He's just trying to gain a little bit of extra practice. We'll see if anybody else can shake up that. Coming to the end of his second timed lap, where does Freenosh tuck in line? Waiting for the leaderboard to show. It'll be 4th for the 88 car.
Yep, doing a great job there. 88 come in here, and about 40 seconds left. Not too many qualifiers left here on the board. We're going to go down this back straight again, cut down into the corner, and we'll ride on board here for another lap here. Right now, that Peter Irons queue time looks pretty solid, I would say, Evan, as we're watching this on-board shot. And, yep, stays the same. This is Brett Larson again here, by the way.
Okay, Larson continuing. Bradley Burke was P6 in practice. He is the highest running car from that practice session who has not yet logged a time, but he is not on the racetrack. So Bradley Burke may be by default starting from the rear based on a provisional. No lap times for him, Soa, Randolph, or Kane. Going to see those drivers from the rear based on iRating, and everybody else going to qualify based on time. So let's go trackside and take a look at your RealSimRacing starting grid. And for the first time in his short Full Throttle Cup Series career, it is pole position. The number one car starts P1 tonight. Peter Irons is on pole position, 30.965. And Cody Harris can line up alongside in second. That is the first of many A51 Pro X Altus cars in the field. His teammate and six-time race winner this season, Agno Phillip, will start to the inside of row number 2 and third. And Andrew Freenosh, still looking for race win number 1. He starts in fourth. Back on row 3, P5 to the 15 of Maverick Davis for 5150 Racing Team. And in sixth place, it's the number 44 for Flat Out Esports of Michael Araya.
We go out here to P7's Brandon Gass with Cam Patterson, part of Rogue Wave Racing in P8. Sam Nieto, part of Flat Out Esports, is P9 with Jason Landry in P10. Austin Coop, back to this Austin Coop this week. No E in his name. And then Manazzi Major in that Sprite machine in P12.
That brings us back to lucky number 13 tonight. That goes to the Steel Horse Racing number 6 of Thomas George. He'll be alongside the Extreme Performance Motorsports number 51 of Brett Larson in 14th. Back on row number 8, it is the Mara Motorsports 79 of Dylan Coyle and the XPM number 30 of Mike Maddox. And on row 9, Bradley Burke, first car on provisional. He's got some work to do in the Flat Out Esports number 19 car, the Get Wet Esports Chevrolet, back in traffic. And the WJ Moofield Motorsports 26 of Dalton Randolph will start 18th. That leaves only the Subpar Racing 75 of Steve Soa and the Extreme Performance Motorsports number 90 of DeAndre Kane. They will start 19th and 20th and round out row number 10. Again, 151 laps on deck. Bonus points to be paid out at the halfway point at the end of lap number 76 in this race as we get one step closer to the end of the regular season. Irons in first, Freenosh in fourth, both looking for their first wins of the season. Harris and Phillip looking for more. Those A51 Altus cars going to be the ones to watch for all night long. We're happy that you're with us, though, on RaceSpotTV. Field in the hands of Peter Irons. Let's go racing in New Hampshire. Irons leads lap number 1. Going to leave a battle for second spot. Cody Harris topside, trying to play defense as Agno Phillip on the bottom, putting pressure sideways though off at turn 2 as the 94's got to reel it back in. Give Harris second, Freenosh through to third, and Maverick Davis looking for more.
Ooh, that wiggle was scary right there in that corner, or out of that corner, pardon me. That, if you can see it on the broadcast, Evan, you know it had to be tough to handle in the car, but a great job gathering it up and not swinging it to the inside grass, as we saw a bunch of times in practice by Agno Phillip. So he'll recover here and keep moving. And this track is really tough, Evan. This track really has the long straightaways, and it's sort of almost like it drives like a super speedway in the sense it's a long straightaway. You kind of get some speed, some momentum build up, and you come into these almost Martinsville-like corners. Not as tight, but you have to brake for them. You have to get down to speed. This is a tough track mentally to do 151 times.
Very little margin for error as well at this track that's got progressive banking, only 2 degrees right down on the inside line at 7 degrees up on the outside.
Wrecking.
And they're going to be on the bottom as a caution already. Is it the 10 car? It is. Trouble for Patterson. His name you saw drop down the scoring pylon left of your screen, stopped on the back straightaway.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens here when the RaceSpot replay machine loads up here, but I see a couple cars involved. I know I saw Dylan Coyle get involved at the tail end of the wreck, and so we'll have to see what caused that. Looked up, and all of a sudden there was a car sideways in the track. Let's watch it here. Gonna come out of that corner. All looks good. Up just the double snap, and that's what caused that right there.
He claims responsibility for the incident, got a little bit sideways off of the corner, and there's not a lot of space to spin off onto the inside before you get to the inside wall, so incentivized to come back up the hill. That was Austin Coop who got the front end damaged on that spin. A couple of other cars came close. I think damage will be restricted to maybe just Patterson and Coop. Let's go on board with Dylan Coyle.
Watch this here. He's going to see it all of a sudden, last second. Had to make a decision to hit the wall.
And he got some too, and then all the way down to the inside. I think he's fortunate that the inside there was paved for one of the road course layouts here, because if that was grass, he probably would have skidded into the wall. So let's chalk it up as 3 different drivers involved.
Yeah, so already very quickly here, calamity at the track, and that's really the challenge when a car starts to flip around on you like that, Evan, the fishtail, if you will, or the bunch of different names drivers will give it. But what happens is once that car starts to do that, your instinct is to correct the car and snap the wheel the other way to try to save the car. But oftentimes you end up sort of doing that reverse spin in the middle of the field. And of course, sort of, I don't want to use the word ironic, Evan, I don't know if a better word for it, but this is the track back in 2003 where we saw Dale Jarrett turn sideways on the track, and a very scary moment that led to the whole lucky dog situation in NASCAR. Before that, we drove him back to the line, but it's just sort of interesting to see a car turn sideways this early in the race.
Again, no surprise. It was a single car incident. We saw Agito Phillip by far, I think, the best driver so far this year. 6-time race winner, nearly spin on that same spot on the racetrack. And there's a look with Dylan Coyle as he's going to exit the pit lane and will try to catch back up to the field as he tried to get maximum damage fixed on that race car and then blend back out onto the racetrack. But I don't know if he was able to beat the pace car off. You see, he's slow on the inside. No, I think he's going to be told to drop to the back. So Coyle will lose his lead lap status. Patterson and Coop both came down pit road for repairs, but they were able to exit pit road before the pace car put them a lap down. So that will hold things. And now, while Coyle and others get blended back into traffic, we will actually hold. The light's going to go back on top of the pace car, and we will wait one more lap before going back green.
If we can go back to that Dylan Coyle webcam shot for a second, I just got to ask this question, Evan, and I know it's a popular question. Is there not a more creepy-looking mascot than Gritty?
No, who's more scary-looking right now, Gritty or upset Dylan Coyle?
Oh.
He does not look very happy.
No, not really. They kind of got the same figure, don't they?
Who's he talking to? I want to see. He's probably in the Mara Motorsports radio channel. If he is, I can't see it, can't access it.
Let's be honest. We both love Dylan Coyle, but Dylan Coyle would just talk to himself. He doesn't need someone to talk to. Like, he could be down there.
That's what I was worried about. I was trying to find it out for him, but I have no proof that there's anybody. But everybody needs somebody to vent to. Maybe he's talking to Gritty, getting his frustrations out, because the downside is he is the only car one lap down. Benefit is next yellow, who get the lucky dog, but not a place that Dylan wants to be in early in this race. It is also worth noting DeAndre Kane did not take the green flag in this race. That car currently currently showing as a DNS back in the number 20 spot. So here we go again. Pace car down and in. Control car Peter Irons on the inside. Green flag back in the air. Really good jump for the one. He's clear for the lead. Freenosh again, this time on the inside, trying to challenge for a second. He gets a little bit sideways off of the corner. You saw Phillip get a little bit loose back there in the battle for fourth. That'll give that spot to Davis. And now Harris is clear for P2.
Yeah, clear for P2. He is indeed. Still got a lot of challenge behind him. And look at this pack trying to quickly get single file here, but they're having a hard time here with this double file racing, getting down into this corner. There's 88 digging deep into that corner with Harris on the outside, and we'll see who prevails out of this corner here.
Freenosh did a good job of carrying the speed on the bottom. It's funny with the progressive bank, only 2 degrees on the bottom. Drivers don't want to go all the way down to the yellow, but they're certainly not going all the way up to the outside wall either. That middle off where you can see that seam on the different racing surfaces. It's quite obvious there. Harris able to carry the speed off the corner. He will clear and defend for the number 2 spot. Behind them side by side, fourth on back. This spot was occupied by Davis no longer, but a spinner and a caution behind your race leaders. Dalton Randolph is one of them, but there are more. That's Brett Larson and Steve Soa also involved.
Yeah, big 3-car wreck here. So this will bring us to our second yellow of the night, and we'll give that lap back to Dylan Coyle, by the way. But let's watch this wreck here and see what's going to happen. You see Soa here in the 75. It happens up top. It's almost like 3 separate wrecks in a way. Like, I would have to see that again, Evan. I'm a little lost for words, honestly. You'll see a car up top. Oh, there they come. They come together right there. Okay, that's where it all starts.
Tough, I think, to place blame on that one. It was Larson going to the inside of Randolph, and you can see, I'm sure Larson feels like the 26 came down. I'm sure the 26 feels like Larson went up. They just kind of met in the middle on the 2 lanes into which they entered the corner in, and then you saw Soa spin, simply just trying to give that car extra wheel mid-turn to try to avoid the 51, and by the way, did so successfully. So it is a spin for Soa, but there is no damage on the Montucky Cold Snack Chevrolet. He'll come down pit road to get some new tires put on it, but no damage. So that kind of makes it a de facto 3-car incident, but not surprised that neither of the drivers involved in the initial contact claiming the incident. They met together, and if that's the case, no one's going to get an end of the longest line of penalty. That one will just go to a post-race review.
Yep, we'll see what happens here. I do want to talk about Dylan Coyle, though. You talked about him trying to get those maximum repairs done under yellow. He actually came out and was pacing about the middle of the back straight when the yellow flag, or when the green flag came out. So this is a major benefit to him because he was half a lap down on top of the 1 lap down. So he was 1.5 down when that green flag came out. So he'll get to come on here as the lucky dog and rejoin the end of the field back on the lead lap here. But now here we are, lap 13, 2 cautions, Evan. So as a driver now, you have to start to wonder, is this the norm? Are we gonna get this figured out? When can I gamble and stay out? Because listen, right now, it's only 13 laps. It doesn't make sense to pit maybe if you're up front. But if this race were to go green for, let's say, 100 laps after this, the drivers down pit road, like a Steve Sewell right now, might benefit from 13-lap newer tires.
Just looking back on previous race precedent, last year this race had 6 different caution flags for 24 laps behind the pace car. There were also 3 different leaders, 4 different lead changes, as King, Phillip, and Demergent all led laps. So 2 yellows early, not necessarily shocking. It is worth noting, though, that race had 33 cars compared to 20, so one would think less cars, less yellows. That has actually been one of the biggest compliments for a lot of the veterans in the field, is that, listen, without 35, 40 cars to clog things up, we've seen more green flag racing on average this season compared to what we've seen in the last 3 or 4. You wouldn't know it by the start here at New Hampshire, but more times than not this year, we've had those races with the long green flag runs. But this track can kind of fall into a similar conversation as maybe the Darlingtons of the world, right, where there's a lot of driver versus track. Because I think, and I'm not a betting man, I don't know if you can sports bet in New Hampshire or not, but I'm going to think that we'll see more incidents tonight from single car spins, or at least started by a single car losing control, than we will incidents like what we just saw.
Yeah, very likely. And what causes that is a driver will want to get on the gas really quickly out of the corner. That's sort of our instinct. As you see Cody Harris here riding on the outside here in P2. But when you get on that gas too soon out of a corner and you kind of spin those tires around before you really have full grip and you're ready to go, that's what causes that car to spin around on you. And it's scary when it does. You'll know instantly that feeling. You sort of lose that tension in your wheel. If you have the pedals that vibrate, your pedals will vibrate, and you just know all of a sudden you're about to go around in a loop.
Pace car off it in. Irons once again choosing the inside for the restart, and again he is gone. Green flag back in the air. It's a great jump for the one car. No challenge for second though, as the Cody Harris defends P2.
Yeah, the Cody Harris is a nice touch there for an alma mater of the Ohio State University. Doing a great job here, trying to keep in touch with the leader for now and try to see what he can make happen. But look at that battle right there for 4th and 5th. That's going to be Agno Phillip and Brandon Gass right there, I believe. No, that's right. That's Brandon Gass and Michael Araya, sorry, for 4th and 5th. I got the names wrong there. And they're having at it. But they've already sorted it out here. And Gas will take that position. Maybe not. Here comes the right, because Gas got way wide up in the corner, Evan. And as you see that area up there that's darker paved, you don't want to try and race up there.
And we've seen drivers avoid that, and here's a dive, or at least a look, from the 6 car, Thomas George. And when you're running that middle lane that you describe, if you're that Tua Sam Nieto, it really leaves a provocative opening on the inside. If you're a car behind trying to challenge, it's there, it's tempting, but you can drive down to the yellow line all you want. It's just not the preferred lane. So as tantalizing as that is, maybe not the place to go, not the place to force the move. And again, nothing comes of that for the 6, but even further behind, almost a spin. Patterson saves it. Good catch by the 10 car. He will evaporate all of his positions in the running order, but it was another close call for Patterson, who lost it on that same spot on track earlier in this race.
Well, I'll tell you what else is evaporating for Patterson in a moment to go by, Evan, is that self-confidence. When you lose the car twice in the same spot within a matter of, 19, 20 laps here, it really begins to get under your skin. It begins to frustrate you. It really just makes you mad and angry, and then that emotion can get to you, and it either will make you drive harder and cleaner, or it's going to make you drive just more frustrated than what it was. Watch this replay here. Just gets on the gas and got to save that time, but whew.
Close call, maybe a bit of help with some contact from above, but he stays on the lead lap, and another close call there is across the nose of that 15 machine back there at Davis. A good battle between Maverick Davis and Steven Soa, 13th and 14th on track. Remember, Soa came down pit road after spinning to avoid a wreck in front of him, so both these cars have about 12 lap fresher tires than all of the cars in front of them. Now 12 is a relative term because we've only spent about maybe 4 of those 12 laps of a difference under green, so not that big of a benefit, but still worth noting as Soa makes the move on Davis to get P13.
Yeah, where that would come into play more likely than tires, Evan, would be if we stay green, and when we discuss the pit stops, those guys have another, roughly 12 laps that they can play with compared to everybody else. So we'll see how that plays out. But right now, just kind of riding around here at New Hampshire. This track, of course, has a lot of history. I think it's hosted a race every year since 1990 on the NASCAR schedule. So this is not a new track to any NASCAR fan. We've all been here and we've all raced here in iRacing or our other preferred, sims as we grew up before iRacing was available. So this is not a new track. As you see, a lot of experience here. A lot of guys know the line. They know the groove. Just getting there and making it happen is a different process.
So Irons being kept honest by Cody Harris, P2, Andrew Freenosh, P3, and Philip Fourth. All those cars within 1 second of the race leader. Irons has led all but one lap in this race. Cody Harris has also led one. He has snagged a bonus point as well. And again, it is important to run strong throughout the race because 10 bonus points going to be passed out to the leader at the halfway point. Now, because this is a 151 lap race and we can't pay points at 75.5, it'll simply happen at the end of lap number 76. So we'll talk bonus points when we get to that point. But back here in traffic with Steve Soa, he was under fire, but a caution from behind Soa. I see nothing in front of him. I think it might have been Austin Coop.
Yep, so caution number 3 here, as Austin Coop has, I believe, put the caution out for the 3rd time here. I'm going to see a webcam view there, and a little bit of frustration in the face there, a little bit of frustration, just kind of wanting to get this going and fix all that, and a little disbelief, I believe, there as well.
Felt that, just the look of, oh boy, and again, Coop had some damage from earlier. Curious how much it was affecting the car, but again, that thing went around quick. He almost caught it, but again, this racetrack is just so unforgiving with the inside wall so close. Even on the backstretch, it's so close. And it'll be a self-spin for Coop. So 3rd yellow of the night, 2nd caused by a car losing it on its own. And now, 25 laps into this race, do we see more wholesale pit service? It's worth noting, as always, these drivers are limited to 4 additional full sets of tires on pit road. That gives you enough for about every quarter of the way through the race. It looks like not everybody going to be down pit road. Irons, Freenosh, and company are in, but Agnell Phillips, Sam Nieto, and Bradley Burke will stay out.
Yeah, I was kind of curious how many people would take this chance because we've seen not that many passes so far, Evan. So when you see a track that doesn't allow for a lot of passing, you'll see drivers typically want to stay out on track and use that track position as much as possible here. But now, as you said, not all of them under yellow, or under green, pardon me, much of them under yellow. We'll see how these laps of tires play out here and what happens. Everybody's doing 4 tires and pulling off pit road, and Cody Harris came close but did not win that battle.
And it is 4 tires for everybody who came down pit road. Soa and Davis spending a little bit of extra time at box to maybe get some damage repaired, but it means that we have a total of 6 drivers who decide to stay out entirely. Again, Soa and Davis stayed out. They pitted 13 laps ago, no surprise there. 6 other drivers stay out who have not pitted yet, so that means that the first car on tires, Peter Irons, is going to be in the number 9 spot. You see those last pit stop times. Again, anything in the 14-second range going to indicate a 4-tire stop. Dylan Coyle's 13.0 is interesting. That is too short to be a 4-tire stop. I don't think Coyle took any tires. I think that was simply a pit stop for damage repair. It's also worth noting that Austin Coop has claimed responsibility for the incident, so he will get an end of the longest line of penalty if he rejoins the racetrack right now on pit road for repairs.
Yeah, I agree. It's just damage for Dylan Coyle. Still trying to get all that damage fixed from that first yellow and just trying to see what he can make happen with the rest of this race here. But now we get a new top 5 here. Philip Nieto, Bradley Burke, Thomas George, and Steve Soa. Soa, who of course we saw pitted last time by and was in sort of, I guess, when you say accidentally involved in the caution before, not really, but just sort of spinning in the background. But now we'll see how this restart happens. And now the field needs to be aware of maybe a new restart cadence, how the driver's going to go. It's all different when someone leads the race for the first time. Pay a little bit more attention here. So we'll see what happens here at New Hampshire, and I'm excited to see if Agnell Phillip can maybe take a hold of this opportunity and lead a bunch of laps.
And so is somebody else who is just inside of the playoffs with some consistent runs. has a best finish of 11th earlier this year, but has been very consistent with a lot of 14th or 13th place finishes. Again, kind of taking what the field has given to him, staying clean. Has an opportunity on an off-cycle race strategy like this to maybe look for a best finish so far on the year. I'd be a little bit biased if the 75's up front, simply because I painted the race car and I think it looks cool. Pace car going to be in this time. Agnell Phillip, first time as the control car on the bottom. Remember, 4 fresh tires back on row number 5 with Peter Irons and Cody Harris. How long do the old tires hang on up front? Green flag back in the air.
Oh, look at that up front there on the high lane. Looked like maybe P2 just missed the start and P4 did not. So a little bump instantly there on the restarts. But now Agnell Phillip has started to pull away already here and has Bradley Burke right behind him. So already a little bit of changing of positions with the outside lane not getting moving as fast as they wanted to.
You see first bit of side-by-side with Soa and company on the back. It's going to be a big melting pot there because that's going to be the oldest tires versus Soa and Davis's medium-use tires versus everybody else's fresh tires. Going to be real busy at the tail end of the top 10. They're 3 wide. Oh, and now there's a contact. Is it a spin? Oh, there's a hit. Soa goes around nearly up and over. Went Dalton Randolph. And we were talking about the advantage of the tires. Soa might have felt like I have to push here, but what did I say about that provocative opening on the bottom? Just because it's there doesn't mean it's a good race line, and I think he just entered too low to the point where it almost feels like there's negative banking. If you're below that first hash, that car's going to snap around like that every time. He almost saved it until right there. 26 had nowhere to go.
Oh, our producer Joshua Lee pre-race said he loves to watch the BMX and the skateboard in the Olympics. Well, there you go. There's a skateboard-like move with just only half the wheels making contact with the ground. Oh my gosh! Look at the air that car got. But under caution again, this will hurt Steve Soa and his chances here with those kind of medium fresh tires.
There's the on-board look with Randolph again. A very quick trigger finger as well from the iRacing automated caution system. Soa had almost saved that race car, but the caution was already out before the contact with the 26 machine happened, and shades of Ryan Anderson for Dalton Randolph putting it on 2 wheels on the apron and brings it back down. Soa claiming responsibility. He's going to get the end of the longest line of penalty, and both of those race cars are going to be in for repairs. And under the yellow, let's see if we can bother Race Spot's own Dylan Coyle. Dylan, you got us on the radio?
I absolutely have you, my friend. How are you, Ev?
I didn't, ask beforehand if we could borrow you. I just figured we'd pull up your radio.
Man, you always can.
I know. Listen, we had 6 yellows in this race last year with 33 total cars. Smaller field. We've seen more green flag racing this year, but 4 yellows early. So what's making it so tricky out there at New Hampshire?
Well, I think there's a couple things here. I think it's really precarious when you're trying to get on the throttle on corner exit. I think some of these drivers are trying to mash the throttle down. You can't really mash the loud pedal here. You really have to take it easy, especially when you're coming out of third gear. The revs are going to be high. The tires are going to be spinning. And they're also, it's not the most comfortable trying to get back down the straightaway. You get a little bit too much heat, a little bit too much, spinning in the rear wheels, and then you're going for a ride. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is that it's really easy to lock them up here and kind of overdrive into the corner. So I think it's just a little bit of impatience. I know I had some struggles in the first with that first caution. Was able to avoid the spin, but tagged the wall. My car is completely repaired though somehow. So we're good. I'm actually getting some advice right now from the engineer for the 38 car in the Cup Series, Mark Rollo, and Mike Snyder. They said you guys flamed me about my gritty flag in the background earlier.
I don't know who the we is. I think that was Derek is the offending party.
Okay.
Someone, what's that saying? Snitches get stitches.
Yell at Mike Snyder and Mark Rollo.
Wow, that didn't take long at all. That's moved right back around.
Word
right there.
Gets around.
All right.
Yeah, word does get around very quickly.
Well, we'll let you get back around to your team radio channel, but we might die you up again here. Best of luck as you guys get back going.
Appreciate it, buddy. Let's usually I'd say green flag racing. You're good to dial me up. Let's do just yellows here.
Copy. We will dial you up coming to every green flag from this point on.
Perfect. I'll take it in stride.
That is our in-race reporter, Dylan Coyle. Let him get back on the radio with the Flat Out Esports group. And, you know, Derek, that's what happens. Gritty has a cult following. If you talk trash on a Philadelphia area sports mascot, they've got a lot of weird ones in that part of the country. It strikes a chord with some folks.
Listen, any sports community that's going to boo Santa Claus, it's pretty down the books. I mean, I know that was like 7 years ago now, but still, you booed Santa Claus. You have no room to talk about anyone's opinion. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, we'll see how the rest of this one plays out for Dylan. He's going to be back at a number 14 spot. Again, still looking at the mix of fresh tires. Peter Irons, the first car on 4. He was able to make his way up to P6. He's on a row 3. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump for the 94. Agno Phillip takes us to turn 1.
Look at this here. We've seen 2, 3, maybe 4 different lanes being used right there out of turn number 2, trying to find the way around here. But Agno Phillip, Bradley Burke, Thomas George, still your top 3 here. And I was trying to look down the board here. I think it's going to be with the 88 and P6 might be our newest tires. They're 3 wide again, Evan. And oh my goodness, they survived that one. That's what led to the trouble. Or, there's Shimich in the back.
Spinners and caution again at lap number 35. It was Davis who started it, and I think this may have been the biggest mess so far of the race. Again, Davis kind of in that middle point on the tire strategy. We saw Soa, who was on the same strategy as the 15, lose it just prior. And let's watch this, battling with the number 28 car that's Harris to the inside, gets sideways, contact, and I think he just kind of locked it up to try to save it, but that was worse, though, because there were cars coming at speed behind, and it really stacked them all up. Dylan Coyle had a hell of a view. Watch Coyle on the inside wall try to find a gap. I think he might have made it maybe with a couple of paint flakes lost on the driver's side door.
That was really almost a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario, wasn't it, for that car that was around there? Because either you lock it up and you save the car and you get run over, watch it again here, or you gas it and you eat the inside wall. And so that was really just a no-win situation, if you will, in that moment here. It's going to cause a big calamity here. And I can say right now, the drivers are beginning to get a little frustrated up front, Evan. Then we heard some comments there. All right, guys, there's only 19 of us. What are we doing here?
Noting that as we go on board and check out this perspective from Coyle, who sees the smoke in front, goes low, and then all of a sudden there's a car there, and that's just as good of a job you can do when you guess wrong, essentially, and still find a way through for Coyle able to sneak on by about best case scenario. Worth noting, though, Maverick Davis, again, he claims responsibility for the incident. He's going to get the end of the longest line penalty. It is not simply like you can point a finger at this driver or that driver, Derek. We've had 5 yellows, one of which was not claimed by anybody. That one looked like a pretty mutual incident, but we'll go to a post-race review. The other 4 claimed incidents have all been claimed by different drivers. It's not like there is an offending party who is, having major issues. We've even seen some of the top cars in the field have some big scares.
No, it's almost an offending track, right? It's the track. It's the way we come out of these corners, how you can't gas it as hard. It's a hot track. If we can see the track temperatures here, it's 102 degrees on track in Fahrenheit right now, and it's only mid-afternoon, so it's probably not going to get any better for these drivers. So, I mean, that hot track leads to less grip, and it's just going to be difficult. So these drivers just have to kind of cool down, concentrate. Remember that old adage, slower goes faster. That's the key here, because obviously going fast isn't working. So you need to kind of back it up and be ready for what happens. And now, what I think would happen though, Evan, if we could get, dare I say, a longer run in, and these tires continue to wear off, that they won't be as fast out of the corners, and maybe this slows down. I don't know if that'll happen here, but that would be one of my keys here. If we could get a long run, I think that the cars will slow down, the tires will wear, the track will wear in, and maybe less spins out of the corners.
It'll be interesting to see how this race plays out, because it's not as simple as, okay, we get 25 laps into the run, okay, the tires really start to fall off at this point. It seems like even on the freshest of tires, there's just not a ton of grip out there. Like, that margin for error is still very slow, or very small, I should say, and then again, it makes it hard to point to. So yes, long run, you're going to slow the speeds down. In theory, you just spread out a little bit, but when the threat is car versus track more than it is car versus car, I'm a little bit skeptical on a long green flag run actually benefiting. But maybe if it's been a different car, each claimed caution, once you find that limit and you step over that line and lose it, now you know where the limit is, and maybe you don't re-infract. And it's just going to take time for everybody to kind of find that line. And we'll see how this one plays out. Again, the quick yellows have made it a slow march to the field, but there is no doubt the cars who pitted on the yellow 2 caution cycles ago have the advantage. Again, Irons is all the way up to the number 4 spot. Freenach is up to P6. They have about 25 lap better tires than Philip Bercadietto, 1, 2, 3. So keep an eye on Peter Irons in the 1 car. He's going to be outside of row 2, looking to take the lead with the fresh Goodyears. Pace cars off. Phillips gone again. It's another good restart for the 94. He pulls up and clear for the lead. Nieto tries, looking to the inside for P2. Can't do it. And second goes to Burke.
Yeah, they're going to come out of turn number 2, and already see drivers just trying to jockey for position and make things happen as best they can here. Now down this straightaway into turn 3, top 3 cars single file. See a little bit of squiggling back and forth through the field. Everyone's kind of hunting for what little bit of grip and track they can find here, but doing a great job here. Everyone now getting single file. See one car stuck on the bottom there. Cody Harris. Oh, there's a car way wide.
George missed the turn 1 entry, way up and into the slick stuff. Harris makes a pass on the bottom. He got a little bit loose off of the corner. All of this going on for P5 on back. Freenach and George almost get into each other in turn 3.
And when you're Freenach, this is the danger of taking tires in that pit stop that they did. Evan, get a car around. That's Thomas George. It's going to save it for the moment. I think no yellow.
No caution. George had a real messy lap, and I think just started to lose it on his own, and the margin for error wasn't there because Brandon Gass was right on the bumper. Those two exchanged some thoughts over the radio, but George was able to keep it rolling. No caution. We stay green. Contact in the fight for third. Peter Irons, fresh tires, makes his way through. You get a good second look at that self-spin for the 6 car as Irons up to third, looking for more, and Cody Harris, also on the fresh tires, tries to go topside on the Yetto, but the 2 car enters high and put the 28 up into the outside. Sideways now. Hold on. 2. There goes Cody Harris. He spins. Freenach tags him, and a caution.
There it is. And just got all kinds of wiggled around the corner, and then just a small bump from Freenach and sent him on around. And I think we heard Cody say, that's not your fault. I just kind of jacked it up in the corner. And then what happened. I was about to talk about the dangers of being back in this field for a Freenach, but let's see what happened here.
They were just racing hard. Of course, I think it all started, if you wind it back even further, on the entry to turn number 1, right? Harris saw Irons get by the 2 in Nieto. Cody's on those same tires as Irons. I think tried to go high, and the 2 either missed the corner there or intentionally ran him up. And that really makes this whole corner weird for the 28 because you're not normally firing off from way up there. So he tries to bring it down to carry some speed, and he probably has more speed on the exited 2 than he's expecting. Car doesn't like it. That thing was going around whether Freenach was there or not.
Yeah, so let's see what happens here. This will be from Cody's on board here. See the Little Caesars car right there.
See that diamond? That's just a weird exit. He's got so much speed that the car is unsettled enough when it's at a normal pace, but that much more speed, that much more wheel to make it on the exit. And man, that thing had a death wiggle. It bobbled once, twice, and gone.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe a little bit as well, being on an outside there and feeling that pressure of needing to get back in the gas when you know you got someone behind you, and just feeling that momentary pressure that was just a little too soon to get back in the gas pedal here. Well, here's Cody. We saw him instantly on the webcam once that car went around with his Ohio State memorabilia in the background here. And Cody, of course, a proud Buckeye, not a secret to anyone who's watched the broadcast before. He's all decked out in his Ohio State colors, the scarlet and gray on the car, the scarlet and gray behind him, and really came really close to winning last week, Evan, before throwing it away with about 8 to go.
He's had a good string of races, though. I mentioned it's been all A51 Pro X Altas winners of the last 5. Phillip winning his 5th and 6th races of the year at Dover and Darlington. And then the last 3 races being first wins on the year for his teammates. Of course, Harris in Charlotte, Danson at Sonoma, and Lariah last week at the Iowa Speedway. So Cody's going to blend back out onto the racetrack. Let's see if we can dial him up and get a quick thought from the driver of the 28. Cody, you got us on the radio?
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been marching through the field on that tire advantage there, and then in the blink of an eye, it was gone. We've seen 5 different cars get that kind of self-spin out of nowhere. It seems like this track has been quite the challenge so far.
Yeah, the car is not very connected to the track, especially on exit 2 there. I think Sam is mad at me from last week, and I was trying to pass him. I got up too high because if you look the corner before, he blocked me down and then blocked me up, and I entered really high, and then I just got out of shape and lost it because I was just higher than I wanted to be over some bumps. So
well, now you kind of hit the well, it's good to know that I wasn't completely wrong on saying that it looked like a bit of a tricky entry for you, getting pushed wide and then up into the weird stuff. But again, we've seen everybody have this challenge. So as the lights go on top of the pace car, what can you do when everybody's struggling with the same thing?
Just be more careful on throttle and take more time in traffic. I'll probably not be in great shape here since I slipped my tires, but hopefully the race will come back to me. I feel pretty good here once I can get into a rhythm and get part of it too is we're not even running long enough to get heat in the tires, so it's just extra slick.
We'll let you get back to the team radio here. Thanks for chatting. Good luck on the restart.
Thank you.
That's a quick thought with Cody Harris, like having all these drivers available to us on the broadcast tonight. And again, a good point to his note. We talk about the benefit of maybe going on a long run. Sure, you're going to burn the tires up a little bit, but they'll actually get temperature in them. So maybe those longer runs get a benefit in that regard. Pace car off it in. Let's do it again. 3 cars on 48-lap-old tires on the front 2 rows. Green flag in the air. It's another good jump for the 94 of Agnew Phillip, who chose the outside for the first time tonight. Burke to a race high P2. Remember, he didn't qualify. Started back in 17th. He's made his way up to the number 2 spot as Peter Irons tries to repass the 2 in Nieto for 3rd. He's done it, and now here comes his teammate in Brandon Gass.
See Gass here wants to try to stick it to the bottom and drive it up a little bit out of the corner as much as he can with the car on the outside. Wants to be patient with that throttle here and not do what others have done so far. We're just about a third of the way through the race, Evan. And the challenge, I think, here, if you're a driver, is I don't know what you've learned so far. You know, I guess you've learned not to stomp on the gas pedal out of 2, but it feels like we've been under caution so much in the first third of this race that I don't know what my takeaway would be as a driver. I guess other than just, I said, be aware of turn 2.
If there are some common denominators in terms of where some of the incidents tonight have been happening. There's the unmistakable green of the 82 Venanzi Major. It's the Hulu car tonight, though, fighting with Andrew Friedosh in a battle for 8th and 9th position. They're side by side, and in front of them, oh, the 82, those sideways. He gets hit by Thomas George. George saves it again. That's 6. Just cannot catch a break. And another near miss as we stay green.
Ooh, that's the second time for Thomas George. He's had that car somewhat sideways and no yellow has come out. So both a positive and a negative in the eyes of Thomas George. So we'll keep racing here. This is Michael Araya on your screen here, making that pass and trying his best to get around San Mieto and the others in the little Cedars machine. Watch back here. This is that contact with Manazzi Major. And it looked like maybe he just tried to check it up out of the corner and then got hit from behind. So you saw a little bit of smoke from those tires.
He was trying to save it, did save it, but the space he needed to do so was where the 6 was off of the corner. And again, that's the second time George has been involved in something that wasn't really his to be involved in. And both of them didn't have a yellow, which means he loses all the positions and doesn't get the benefit of re-racking and going at it again. So the 6 looking for a little bit of positive luck in this race. Hasn't had a ton of that. Meanwhile, the 88 of Andrew Freenosh makes a pass. Both he and Cody Harris took tires the last trip down pit road. They're both on only 8-lap-old tires. They made moves right there on Cam Patterson. His tires about 26 laps old. So watch for the 88 and the 28 up to 7th, trying to make their way through the field. Again, they're the ones with the hot shoes.
Yeah, they're the ones with the best tires in the field here. And so if we can get this green, we'll wait and see how much that really does matter here. And with all the cycles on the tires, we'll have to see if these leaders can stay up front or what they can do with that ability here. But man, Freenosh riding very smooth through those corners. For all the drivers we've seen have wiggles tonight and have bumps and scary moments. I mean, look up here for Agno Phillip, even riding in that second groove there, using those traffic lanes as his guide into this very smooth corner, making it look easy.
Peter Irons, in the meantime, that third-placed car, again, was the guy on the freshest tires. We were following him through the field. It was he and Gas on the best tires. Now they find themselves in the middle of it all. So the plethora of yellows means that we've got a handful of different tire strategies in the works right now. The benefit of having the long green flag runs for most of the races this year means that a lot of people have been on the same strategy. It's been very cut and dry. We've seen the undercut versus the overcuts, but not a lot of races like tonight where you actively have 3 or 4 different tire strategies happening at any given moment. Again, Phillip, who leads, Burke in second, haven't come down pit road yet tonight as we are 20 laps away from paying out bonus points at the midway break. Sam Nieto now under fire as Freenosh takes his fresh tires to the outside and makes a pass for P6.
Yeah, doing a great job here. And what may be, knock on wood, our longest run of this night so far. Here, Cody Harris.
Dare say it out loud.
Yeah, I'm kind of mad that I did. Ooh, Cody Harris, a little bumped in the Edo there. So maybe that little rivalry is not over between those two, because Cody just kind of expressed his own little his way of showing a little frustration for those blocks that were happening earlier.
And we'll see if that 28 Harris can get through, because remember, Harris and Freenosh on the same strategy have been following each other through the field, but seems like the Drip Designs Camaro of Harris struggling a little bit more with the pass on the 2 in the yellow. And we talked to Cody under the yellow, and he made his feelings quite known that he feels like Sam's mad about an incident from a couple of weeks ago. It's not making life easy on the 28 car, and I think Sam Nieto is doing his best Ryan Newman impression, making that car about as wide as possible and making this as difficult as possible for Cody Harris to get on by. You can understand it's frustrating for the 28 car, but he wants to make this pass happen clean, and the 2 is making it awfully hard.
Well, I'll tell you what, I spoke to Sam after the race last week when I went down to voice chat, and Sam was a little upset with Cody. I wasn't sure that it would have carried over to the next race, but he just kind of thought Cody was doing some silly things and, maybe not making wise choices. But, yeah, there you go. So Cody got in there deep and got around. So Sam was a little upset last week, but listen, sometimes, Evan, you don't know if that's going to carry over. We've all had races or worked with teammates who are mad in the moment. And listen, sometimes 30 minutes later, you've forgotten all about it, and you couldn't even tell you what happened that made you mad. And other times, a whole season later, you still got someone marked on your whiteboard as someone who you need to plot revenge on. So it's hard to tell how a race car driver is going to feel in this moment when they think something happened to them. And so right now, of course, Sam Nieto looks to still be a little upset, but Cody Harris has dealt with it for now.
He had to make a dive to make the pass pretty quick, was he was able to do it. And now we come to the crossroads in strategy. Irons used to be on the freshest of tires, his 35 laps old. Lariah pitted about a yellow or two after Peter did. He's on tires that are only 23 laps old, so the 44 has the advantage. And again, how the turntables, you see the stint length on the scoring pylon. So many different strategies. The top two haven't pitted. Irons pitted 30 ago, Lariah 24 ago, Freenos 16 ago. So many different tire strategies in the works right now. Funny, though, that the drivers who haven't done anything are those who have stood the test of time thus far and continue to lead the race by a healthy 1.2 second margin over this battle for third.
Yeah, I think the point you brought up early in the race is still very valid, which is that, yes, those tires are newer. And I always believe, as any driver does, in newer tires, that's what you want to get out of it. But then again, you have to think to yourself, like, what have we done with those tires, right? And you look at the difference of tires between Lariah and Irons, for example, only about 8 laps or so. What really happened in those 8 laps besides maybe another caution? Those are about dead even tires. Now, the tires up to Phillip and Burke, that's a little different. But as I said earlier, I think the difference here between Lariah and Phillip, or Lariah and Burke, is not the tires, but the gas.
We'll see how long this battle continues. Again, the longer it takes Lariah to get around Irons, the more he's going to eat up at the slight tire advantage he has over him, and the more that the even better tires of Freenos and Harris, 5th and 6th on the racetrack, are able to eat into this gap. But again, I'm just impressed that Phillip and Burke haven't done anything, haven't dabbled in any of the games, and they have been the best cars so far tonight. Again, Irons led 23 laps earlier in this race after he started on pole, but Agnell's led now more laps than anybody else at 39 after cycling to the lead by default when the one car came down to pit. Now Lariah going to try the bottom again. We saw it with the pass with back there in traffic with Cody Harris and Sam Nieto, that you almost have to get clear center of the corner to be able to finish the pass off. Let's see what the 44 does here in 3 and 4. Maybe not a ton of pushback that time from Irons once the 44 had established the inside line, and Michael Lariah is through to P3.
There you go. Nice job by Lariah. Gets around here and makes the pass. But I'm going to challenge something you said a second ago. You said Phillip and Burke aren't doing anything. But I think that's the key. They're not racing one another. Burke is not digging corners. He's not looking for angles. He's not trying to make a pass. He almost seems content where he is for the moment. Now, we talked earlier about this isn't really a super speedway. These corners make it very much not a super speedway, but down the line you can get some draft in here, and these guys are just in line. They're just pulling away. And so every time Lariah digs in a corner, makes a pass, he goes side by side. Every time Irons wants to get under him and try to get the spot back, these two are just pulling away. So for right now, not doing anything is actually doing something, in my opinion.
Sun as well has left us, tucked into behind the clouds a little bit as iRacing's dynamic weather system plays a bit of a factor. Partly cloudy conditions, the forecast through this race as it's just closing in at about 5 p.m. local time in Sim. And again, the next milestone that we're working on approaching that is on the mind of both of these cars in first and second is the bonus points at halfway. They will be paid out to all the drivers in the top 10. 10 points to first, 9 points to second, so on and so forth. You get the trend. Here's a second look, though, at Agnell Phillip. A little bit loose that time off of the corner, cutting it close to the wall. So that 19 being so close means that Agnell is having to keep aggressive and keep pushing. Should note, if you're tuning in maybe for the first time, though, there is no yellow or break at the midway bonus. It is just bonus points to be paid out.
You know, and something I was going to talk about before we saw Phillip getting a little loose there is the track has come down about 10 degrees in temperature. So there's going to be some more grip in this track. There it is, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. We were up at 106 earlier. So that means there's more grip in this track. You can be a little bit more aggressive out of the turns. You can be a little bit more aggressive with your moves. And maybe we're a little less likely to see someone loop that car around. We just lost another degree in the track temp. So it's coming down fast here in New Hampshire. And that is great, great news for these drivers.
You take a look at those conditions, partly cloudy, a little bit of humidity in the air, track temps still in the mid-90s, despite the fact that it's only about high 70s, I should say, atmospheric temperature. So a bit of a cool but muggy afternoon here in the Northeast as Agado Phillip continues to hold steady at about a 0.3 of a second advantage. Now by far on the longest run we've seen in this race. Does bring up a point where there has to be a tipping point in the strategy, right? So Phillip and Burke haven't pitted at all. If they want to one-stop the race, they will pit maybe right after those points are paid out. That would then obviously swing things well in favor of the cars who have made plenty of pit stops and are nowhere near their required fuel number to make it on a one-stopper to the end of the race. So it goes to show, again, it can change in the blink of an eye. I knock on the proverbial wood, but it goes to show you how quickly the dynamics of a race can change from restart, pit stop to now we got to think about fuel numbers.
Yeah, and this is where you got to play that lottery a little bit. You got to be willing to gamble and hope you came in under the last caution before the green flag run happens, so that you have the best, outcome ahead of you. You have the best strategy, the best, odds in your favor, if you will. But look at this side-by-side battle here that's going on, and that is the 20 car way to the outside here, and it's Cam Patterson on the inside here. They're going to get worked out and get back in line again here. That's Patterson and Brandon Gass here battling for P8 or P7, P8, pardon me.
This battle is about 5 seconds and change back off of the race leaders. Both of these cars on the same tire strategy, having pitted about 45 laps ago. On board with Brandon Gass. Again, they've been right here in the midfield for a lot of this race. You can see the field spread out in front of them as we are 2 laps away this time by from halfway in this New Hampshire 151 and waiting on paying out some bonus points. Maybe a glimpse of the sun on the exit of turn number 2. Still shade, though, around most of this 1.058 of a mile oval.
Yeah, that little bit of sun, if it does peek through, will heat the track back up and cause that grip to go away. But for the moment, it has not here. And look at these intervals here. As you see between Gass and Patterson on the bottom of the screen, you'll see right now that Patterson up there is faster and leading, so he'll slowly pull away here as we get around this track a little bit more. Now, of course, Evan, is our viewers will see a little bit on the back straight here of this track. There's a very, in my opinion, underused road course at this track.
Oh, yes.
That I think is a lot of fun.
For this topic. Preach.
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun. I'm actually, we have all this talk in NASCAR about ovals and rovals and road courses and street courses. Why the New Hampshire road course is not used is beyond me.
Driven it in a cup car on the sim, which may not be the best car for it, but it is a ton of fun. It takes you not only kind of through the inside of 1 and 2, but it takes you outside the racetrack beyond the backstretch wall. It is, I think, top 3 roval on the iRacing service. And I'll pause that note for a moment to cash in 10 bonus points for Agado Phillip, as if it hasn't been a good enough year for the race winner, a 6 of 12 already. He gets bonus points as we are halfway home.
Yeah, great job there for Agado Phillip to get those bonus points here. But you'll see the markings on the backstreet right there. That's where it goes in and out of the backstreet. You're right, it goes, makes a right-hander on that first groove there. It goes kind of outside the track, and you do this course and come back in the back straight and go around again. So it's a beautiful course. I'm really sad it's not more used, either by the NASCAR side of iRacing or that the road course side doesn't really take advantage of it.
It was a good look.
Yeah, there's a great look at it. You see the whole course right there, and yeah, lots of trees in that road course to kind of help you just provide that little bit of scenic atmosphere, and I love it. I really do. I'm sad it's not used more.
You kind of have to duck off, almost like a bus stop on the backstretch a little bit to be able to kind of arc better for the exit. But it reminds me a lot of the Charlotte Roval before it was on the Cup calendar, right? It's very thin. There's no runoffs. There's not a lot of curbing, at least the way that it was scanned and modeled on the service, which is what makes it so much fun. Is margin for error is 0. There's a ton of elevation change on the outside as well. Of course, New Hampshire's played host to a lot more than just oval racing. We've seen some global rallycross and other of the off-road sort sorts here as well in the last decade or so. So really is a fun racetrack. And again, was vacant on the RSR Cup Series schedule for quite some time, mainly because, much like the Martinsvilles of the world, that just turns into a bit of a slugfest and a mess at times. And those tracks tended to be omitted, but it made it back onto the calendar a year or two ago. And again, has been a fun addition since as we continue on this run. And now the sun fully back out as we watch the 51 car of Brett Larson and the 56 of Jason Landry fight for P10 and 11. Oh, they make contact. Larson into the outside wall.
Wow, huge body slam at the outside wall there. Just trying to hip check the 51 up there and got him up in the wall. And good news for the 51, he seems to be okay. No big damage. Probably more frustration. The 56 just said over the radio, Evan, I don't know if I touched you, but if I did, I'm sorry. Well, let me tell you, you touched him.
Gave big Daniel Suarez energy on the radio for the race yesterday, touching Larson, and I don't really think that was my fault after completely just left rearing him. Same energy. Completely hip-checked him. It's the Stanley Cup final going on. Completely hip-checked him into the outside. Well, certainly not intentional on behalf of Landry, but definitely hit him, and in the end, he gets that P10 spot. Larson drops back into the number 11 spot. Again, those two cars on the same strategy will likely see each other again before the race is done. The long con is on, though, for Michael Laraya. Again, has been chipping and chipping away at the battle amongst the leaders. We'll take one more look. You can see they made contact. That car didn't just snap into the wall on its own. I don't know if Laraya has caught Burke, though, Derek, as much as Burke has come back to Laraya, because Laraya is still 1.3 seconds off of the leader. Feels like maybe it's the 19 lose it a little bit more, the pace on the long run, but either way, shape it up soon to be a battle for second.
Yeah, and really, good news for Laraya. I mean, it's not as if Phillip has really pulled that far massively away compared to other races this season. Once Laraya gets around Burke here, Phillip is within view of the windshield. He's within range. He's within eye shot for Laraya. It's something to work towards, a goal to achieve. So we'll see how that plays out here as we're working lap 84 of 151. Going to go back a second, though. After seeing that road course camera for a second, the overhead camera, it made me think we need an Evan Pasoko telestrator here at RaceSpot. That's what we need. We need Evan Pasoko to be able to draw lines and doodle on the screen as we watch the broadcast.
It'd be really fun. I will leave that to our producer to make it happen. I'm not going to complain. We could, draw fictional roval courses, or I could pretend to know what it's like to be a top-level sim racer and critique drivers who are, way faster than me, which I think applies to everybody in the field. That's my favorite hobby, is critiquing people who are way better at me behind the wheel of a virtual car than I would ever be, but that's the name of the game, I suppose.
Under caution, we can play tic-tac-toe.
We can play tic-tac-toe with a driver, too. That'd be really cool. So that'll be...
There you go.
I feel like there's some fun future all-star race ideas there, like all-star qualifying based on a bracket-style elimination tournament with tic-tac-toe on the broadcast telestrator. Like, it would open up so many things, and I will let the powers at be figure that out.
Sounds so much like a Brad Keselowski kind of idea, doesn't it? Just remember when that Brad did make the formats for the All-Star race about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it was confusing.
Point though, I know it's different with Wilkesboro, but man, I miss the full speed trip down pit road at Charlotte Motor Speedway with the pit stop as part of the qualifying lap, and I miss that the pit stop challenge. Classic all-star race activities.
Yeah, very classic indeed. And here is a battle on track, but this is Cody Harris, still up in P6, trying to catch the 88 here and trying to see if he can make a move happen. Cody, of course, involved in that incident earlier, actually with the 88, so it's sort of interesting to see these guys getting back around. But Cody said he had no hard feelings. He knew he got loose, and 88 was just sort of there along for the ride. So nice recovery run by Cody. We'll see what he can make happen here. Now this race has turned kind of quiet, Evan. Everyone's kind of got it almost dialed in. I think the tires have slowed the cars down a little bit. Everyone kind of knows what they can do and can't do with the cars, and now we're just kind of waiting. I would suspect we're no more than, I would think, 5 to 10 laps from Agno Phillip, Bradley Burke, and a couple others needing to pit here. I can't imagine they can go much further without ever pitting in this race.
88 laps going to be complete on tires shortly for Agno Phillip, Bradley Burke, and company as we come to the end of lap number 89. They'll go 89 laps, obviously, on the tires. So it's been a long way, but their lap times, 31.539 last lap for Agno Phillip, 6.59 now this time around. Burke, in fact, an identical lap with a 31.659. Their lap times are still better than most. They are slower than Laria's, but I think quicker than just about everybody else. Gas and Harris, even Freenosh tossed it in a bit of a better lap from time to time, but again, track position and a 4 or so second deficit means that even if those cars are better by a 100th or 2 every now and then, that's not going to be enough to make up the gap. I think, again, as long as the question would be if everybody else has to pit as well, then they can kind of pit at will. But they're 90 laps on the run. The car who has spent the least amount of time, let's exclude Brett Larson, who just pitted. There's a lot of cars who pitted about 45 laps ago, right? That includes Andrew Freenosh. If he were to go to the end without an additional pit stop, he'd have to hit 105. Now, Agno Phillip and company are at 91. It seems like it would be close, Derek. That's a bit deceptive because a lot of Agno Phillip and Bradley Burke's 91 laps were run under yellow, but just something to keep a half eye on to see if it's in the world of possibility.
Well, and the other thing to think about here and sort of put in that puzzle of pit stop strategy is, likely Phillip and Burke will come down first. But if the likes of a Lariah, an Irons, a Harris, a Freenosh wait too long to come down, by the way, Freenosh is down pit road. Look at that. That's on this ticker board. I just saw it side of my eye here. But I was going to say, if these guys wait too long to come down pit road, Evan, they're not going to be able to justify taking tires for that pit stop because it'll take longer to take gas and tires, and Andrew Freenosh is over the 20-second mark and is now left.
It did seem like an interesting time to pit. We were just talking about the fact that Andrew, I should say, and company, him and Cody Harris, had only been out there for about 46 laps. It's still a long shot, but talking about maybe the possibility of, them trying to stretch to go long in this race, and all of a sudden, Andrew Freenosh comes down pit road, his night done in the blink of an eye. So that takes a top 5, top 6 car out of this race just like that, quite unceremoniously.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to look back and see if I could find something here in the camera views that would have told me what happened to Andrew Freenosh, and I don't see it. I don't know if maybe a personal tech problem happened, because there's nothing on track that indicates that Andrew Freenosh hit a wall or had any kind of, black flag. So that's a confusing moment there, but there you have it. So that's one more spot available to this field as Freenosh is disconnected and left for the night here. But coming back to that point, I'll finish then, since that sort of threw me off for a second. For a Peter Irons, a Cody Harris, a Sam Nieto even, if these guys wait too long to pit, Evan, they're going to almost be in a gas-only type of situation, because the reason you take 4 tires is because of the length of the stop. It takes longer to put gas in than the tires, so of course you take the tires. If you come down only needing a little bit of gas to finish this race, you may not be able to justify 4 tires and sitting on pit road forever, depending on how much gas you need.
Do have a bit of a tip that may assist us in trying to figure out what happened to Andrew Freenosh, courtesy of the Subpar Racing spotter for Steve Soa, who noted that Andrew Freenosh came down pit road, Derek, took left side tires only, or at least began to take left side tires only. I'm still a little skeptical on saying 100% that's the reason why, because it was still a way off cycle compared to everybody else. But again, making one stop to the end, well within the world of possibility. The hypothesis with that being, if you were to take 4 tires, it would go right sides, then lefts. Maybe he had incorrectly set up 2 tires instead of 4, and once he went into the box and realized it was only going to put 2 on it, that effectively took him out of the race. Maybe that is why Freenosh retired.
Yeah, maybe. I don't want to stick with that because that's oh gosh, I don't sound critical. That's a silly reason to quit. Just because like a left side tire. I respect he'd have to come back down and fix the mistake, and maybe this late in the race you don't want to do that. But quitting because you got the wrong tires is I don't even have a word for that actually.
Well, we know Freenosh in a position where, again, is going to have no issues qualifying for the playoffs based on points, and has been obviously shut out of victory lane so far this year. I think there could be some frustration behind that. Somebody who, again, is going to be in the playoffs. Top fives, top tens doesn't entirely matter under this format. I don't think that's a hot take, right? That's just the way the format is. I don't think it discredits it at all. It's just an honest assessment of the way the NASCAR Cup Series season in the playoff works. And again, maybe felt like if it's not a win, it's not for him. You never know. But again, there's so many different things that could happen. Issues with the sim, things outside of the sim that require somebody to retire from the race. So again, it's not 100% certain, but an interesting observation that if he was not planning to retire the car, taking 2 tires at that point would have taken him out of a top 10 position no matter what.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I saw that in my screen, and it just didn't occur to me that may have been the reason that he, called it there. But you're right. I mean, there is a certain driver mentality. If it's not a win, it's not for me. That's a mentality that I struggle with, honestly, as a driver and as someone who helps manage a team that I can't quite grasp, to be honest with you, but I know it's a thing now. Speaking of pit road here, now let's check out Michael Lariah. Let's see, this is going to be a real pit stop. He's now down pit road, and you see him coming down your ticker board on the left-hand side, and the clock is a-ticking for Michael Lariah. There's the right sides. Here comes the left sides any moment now. There you go. So despite having taken tires earlier, there's Bradley Burke finally. So now pit stops are open here, and everything is ready to go.
The answer is the question that nobody was going to be able to stretch it because Lariah had only been out there for about 60. That was the second lowest laps on the tires for anybody else. And again, more importantly, laps on that fuel tank. He comes down pit road. Of course, no shock that Burke is in. He was out there from the jump. Came down pit road from P2 for tires and fuel. Burke is away, 14.6 in the box, pretty standard. Peter Irons also down pit road. He comes in from the number 2 spot, but how long does Agnell Phillip wait to respond? Because Agnell's best lap time of this race was a 30.9. Right now running 31.6s. That means that every lap that he spends out there on the racetrack, he gives up 0.7 of a second to his competitor in Burke. And here we go. Here is the response as Agnell is in.
There you go. So there's your race leader finally down with 49 laps to go. So with all the pit stops and all the yellow flags, made it in about 100 laps here. So now Cody Harris, in a moment, will inherit the lead here. And of course, I would think everybody needs to pit again, no matter when you pitted. If Michael Lariah pitted, I think you're right. That's going to tell us that no one can really stretch it that far under this green flag run. But Cody Harris, in the moment, will take the lead here. He'll claim the point for having led a lap. That'll help him along in his journey here in RSR. And you see he's got a big 10-second gap over everyone behind him.
And as they blend out onto the racetrack, Agnell Phillip on the apron. Where does Bradley Burke end up? He cannot leapfrog Agnell. That was the big thing that I was looking for, to see if that 2-lap earlier pit stop from Bradley Burke was going to be enough to take what we think would be about the net race lead away. It does not. Now, it is not so simple because all of this is for position. Peter Irons, he's ahead now on the net race lead battle with Phillips. So is Michael Lariah. So if this were to cycle through, you're looking at first, second, third, and fourth right now. For the moment, it's only for sixth on back. So the 94 and the 19, that was primary battle number 1. But Agnell still has work to do. He's got to get around the 1 car to get back to Lariah. Here's a look to the inside.
And here's the problem that Agnell Phillip now has, Evan, which is that he has newer tires, much newer tires than his competitors. So he's going to be able to do things in these corners. He's going to make lanes stick and make passes and get on the gas even quicker than his competitors. But when you're behind someone, you have to kind of follow their pace. You can't just do it and run them over. So he has to be safe here. Even though he has the newer tires, he has to use them responsibly and make sure that he doesn't end up bringing yellow out and destroying whatever advantage he has on his competitors.
And on the bottom, the one car of Irons way up and into the high lane means it's going to be through and clear for Agno Phillip. Again, that's a pass for P6 at the moment, but that is a pass for second place. And now, can Phillip get to Lariah? That pass took a little bit of time. There's just under a second between those two, as Michael Lariah looking to see if he can sneak away with stealing this race win here in New Hampshire inside of 45 laps to go.
And right now, if you're Cody Harris, you're sort of just begging for a caution. You're begging for someone to loop the car around like what was happening earlier, because that caution would likely put most people down pit road and would sort of level off that, that difference in time and that difference in gap. So you'd have a fair chance at getting back to the lead after your pit here. But look at Agno Phillip here. That's now going to run down Michael Lariah to come down into turn 1 here. And not much speed difference, but it will happen here. This time goes on Cam Patterson now down pit road. And that's Sam Nieto on the, it's not Sam Nieto. That's Dylan Coilsar on the inside. Got his name on the side of the car. And I still missed who it was.
That is in massive letters, too. Like, unmistakably, Dylan Coyle.
Yeah.
You're
Blame
just
on the
still
camera
thinking
shot.
about Gritty. It's a distracting thought. I get it.
I was thinking about Little Caesars Pizza, what I was thinking about. That sounds amazing.
Well, maybe we'll see if we can get a sponsor
Sponsorship?
from the Little Caesars car.
Man.
Yeah, let's see if Sam Nieto can hook it up. As that 15 machine, or I should say the 19, of Bradley Burke around Irons. Again, that's for the net P3 in this race. And Dylan Coyle now part of the battle amongst what will be the battle for the lead. Again, Agno Phillip wants to get this pass done sooner rather than later. As he fights, it prevents him from closing in on the 44. Lariah tries to throw it into turn number 1. Can't get clear. Center off, though. He's got the better bite. Phillip is through. And now he can set his sights on Lariah. 5 car lengths the difference between them. They fight for third, but that again will eventually become a battle for the race win, assuming that Cody Harris and Jason Landry will be unable to go 104 laps to the end of the race. That's what the cars in first and second would need to be able to go without another pit stop.
Yeah, and I think you had the right point earlier, which is it's telling that, it doesn't appear as though the Agno Phillip or Bradley Burke did that number. And if they couldn't do it without all the yellow flags help, then I don't think that Cody Harris can do it either here. But watch Agno Phillip just going to ride that corner very smoothly. Feels no pressure from the car behind him, in fact, and just having a pretty great time here. It's going to slowly run down Michael Lariah. Really, this is just a smooth ride for Agno compared to his other peers who haven't pitted yet or who are on different cycles. So just take his time, be patient. No need to hurry here. You got the advantage. You got the tools you need. No need to hurry and mess it up.
He's going to try to, in theory, use the better part of these 37 laps to not force that issue, make this pass at the correct pace, and make sure that he doesn't burn it up and kind of eat away at those tires trying to set up the pass, and then in turn not leave anything for the defense, because there is still a long way to go in this race. Simply making the pass now does not guarantee the race win. You're still going to have to hold that car off for the better part of, again, what has turned into a long green flag run to the end of this race. They are closing in as Jason Landry now bows out, comes to pit road. That leaves only the Cody Harris machine and Benazzi Major, who is back in 15th and not a factor in the battle for the race win, as cars who we think still need to come to pit road. So this battle should be for the win, and the 94 now within a car length off of turn 4.
Yeah, so it's getting really close here, really fast here in that battle. And see when Agnew Phillip wants to make the pounce here on the 44. Going to follow right behind him here. See if he makes the pass into the corner here. That'd be probably his best candidate. He thinks he can get there, but not there in time. So right now, if you're Michael Lariah, there's nothing you can do. If you're Michael Lariah, you know what you got behind you. You know he's got newer tires. You probably don't even have the tires left to block. You just kind of have to hope that some outside element, whether it be, a caution flag, whether it be another car, maybe were to bump Agnew Phillip and kind of get him out of the way, because there's something you can do to hold him off. It's just time is the only factor right now.
Seeing if he can run the clock out, or is Agnew Phillip going to be inevitable in search of a 7th race win in 13 starts this season? Austin Coop gives way, yields to the inside. That wide look, a good reminder that Bradley Burke in the blue 19 still not that far back. He's got Coop and Coyle in between him and the battle for the race win here. But if something were to happen between those top two, Bradley Burke still a real factor in this race at about a second back in what will look like to be a third place finish as this race continues on. And I don't know if Lariah's picked it up a little bit or if Agnew's being super methodical, Derek, but he was able to close into this car length or so gap back, and now it's sat here for a lap or two.
Yeah, now they're almost dead even here as they're coming in. It looks like that pace that Phillip was gaining has just kind of come to a halt here, and now they're just sort of running in line. Makes me wonder if Phillip's car has a little bit of trouble, or if Phillip himself has trouble riding in traffic. Sometimes the ability of catching a driver and passing a driver are two separate skills, and maybe Agnew Phillip doesn't like the way the car behaves directly behind another driver.
Some updates as well. Thomas George's night has ended. He's gone to the garage. He joins Freenosh, Randolph, Maddox, and Kane, who will not make it to the end of the race. That leaves us with 15 cars actively on the racetrack, only 6 of which are still on the lead lap as this green flag run closes in on 80 laps in length. Back in traffic, watching another battle on the inside. That was the 16 car through for position. As on the back straightaway, they carry on as in the 15 makes the pass. And now Brandon Gass and Cody Harris mixing it up. This is not for position, because don't forget, Cody Harris is still your leader, yet to come down pit road.
Yeah, so at the moment he will maintain that lead and has a little bit of draft right now. If he is going to make it on gas, he's going to have to take those advantages right there to draft and to save some gas, but I just can't see him going another 30 laps. I can't see it happening. I would be stunned and shocked and in awe if that really would happen here.
Drivers discussing as well on the radio how they are yielding, or some not yielding, to other cars as they work past each other. That last time by, 30 laps to go at iRacing's virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Cody Harris's last lap, a 31.8. It was a 30.0 for Lariah. Even if Cody Harris had enough fuel to get to the end of the race, I think Lariah may get there irregardless. So that's another thing to keep in mind if the 28 is indeed locked in. My thought is I don't think the fuel number is possible, Derek, but the counter argument there is, in iRacing, you get very specific fuel numbers, right? Unlike in the real world where they will weigh a gas can before the pit stop, weigh a gas can after, use that to calculate fuel and try to do a lot of complex math to figure out how far a car can go. iRacing will just straight up tell you, you've got this many gallons, and at the pace you're running, we estimate 12 point whatever laps left. I wouldn't think Cody would throw away and gamble everything on this if he didn't feel like it was doable, because if you just decide to pit now, you've kind of dug yourself the hole. You're married to this strategy.
Yeah, at this point, you're waiting for one of two things if you're Cody Harris. You're waiting for the car to be out of gas and to come down and do whatever splash and go you need to do to get to the end of this race, or you're basically hoping for a yellow flag, which, I would think with how far it's been since pit stops would level everything up, and I can't see how anyone would not come down pit road at this point if that yellow does, come out. So if you're Cody Harris, that's your only two options. It's going to be a gas-only stop, no tires for Cody when that does happen, under green, or if under yellow, all bets are off.
And here again, to the back bumper, maybe the closest that Agno Phillip has been, looking to the inside. You see Burke watching on from what is currently fourth, maybe third. He watches on from the wings. He stays just close enough at about a second and a half back of these two to be in the conversation. Agno Phillip and Michael Araya all the way to the outside wall. That time off of 2, using every inch of the magic mile here as this battle is heating up, this time by 25 laps to go.
So the question here, and I have a lot of respect for Agno Phillip and how he races, and he's not one of the more aggressive people I could think of, but at what point does Agno Phillip realize that he has to use the chrome horn? He has to be willing to use the bumper here and get Lariah out of the way. Because right now what's happening is Lariah is sort of killing this advantage that Agno Phillip has.
And you got to be really confident if you're going to put the bumper to somebody that either it's late enough in the race that they can't get back or not. And here's a big moment as Cody Harris comes down pit road, tried to outlast for the yellow that never came. Harris can't make it on the fuel number he's in. New race leader once more, Michael Lariah. Will he even lead a lap in this race? No. Phillip looking to the inside, not going to do it. And I think Lariah, despite being the center of our focus for the last 30 laps, is finally going to get his first lap led on the afternoon this time by. Phillip's got to run, though. Here comes the 94 car, looking to the inside. Battle for the race lead is on at 22 to go, and there is lap traffic in front of them as they go side by side.
Yeah, that lap traffic is going to cause a problem for one of these two drivers here. Lariah got way wide, almost into the wall there. And remember, Lariah came in late last week to win the race, and wouldn't be surprised if he's able to pull it off again here. But there's that lapped car. They're going to get single file behind him. Lariah will be able to pull up first and get a little bit better run, but both clear him fine. But don't look now, but I see a Bradley Burke in the back of that camera shot.
Remember, Burke closed it in. The longer this battle amongst the leaders goes on, the more likely Burke is to be able to close in. Burke does have Larson in the way, lapped car in the middle of it all. Here's another look to the inside. Can the 44 continue to use the outside as a defensive line, or is Phillip going to be able to muscle his way through? The stripe, advantage still to the 44. 21 laps to go. Phillip, though, dead even, gets to pick his lane. 10 are off of turn number 1, though. The 44 holds strong. Now the advantage to Phillip. He's got a half a car length. Burke watches on from third. Still nose to nose and still side by side in the battle for the race win.
And the biggest fan of this battle is Bradley Burke, Evan. He's the biggest fan because every time they go through a corner side by side, he gets to run it clean. He gets to run his preferred line. He gets to close that gap. And he went from being almost out of the camera shot to right in it here. So let them race side by side, says Bradley Burke. Let them bump and touch and defend and block and whatever other words you have. And I'll just make myself relevant with about 20 laps to go. So look at that, Bradley Burke getting closer and closer and closer as this race ticks down.
And these cars have probably never been as comfortable as they are right now, but these drivers have also never pushed this hard tonight. Even Lariah, even Phillip, the top cars throughout the field struggled with handling early, snappy conditions, lots of self-spins. These tires are plenty heated up 30 laps into a run, but these guys going to be asking more of these cars now than they have at any other point in this race. Burke continues to get closer and closer. Bobble on the exit at turn number 4 that time for Lariah. Phillip leads at the stripe. Can he clear into turn number 1? Tries to get by. The 44 hangs on to the right rear. Even on corner exit, no, he can't. Agno Phillip is clear for the race lead.
There you go, new leader at least in the turns 3 and 4, and he looks to be holding on to it here out of the corners as well, so will likely have himself another lap led on the board. Will Agno Phillip here?
Thought Lariah might have tried for a quick response, but now we'll see. Will Agnew Phillip be able to drive away? How much was the 44 holding him up? Phillip slideways. That time off of turn number 2, still pushing, trying to do everything he can to quickly build a protective bubble. Lariah not wanting to go away, but I think Phillip in the clean air is going to be able to open this one up.
Yeah, that's going to be the key now, is what can Agnew Phillip do with that clean air. It's going to take Bradley Burke and Lariah to work together somehow, maybe to get to a separate line and see if they can just use a little bit of draft to catch him. I don't know, but you're right. Right now, Agnew Phillip looks to be just kind of checking out on this field.
The other battle to watch is, does Burke get to Lariah, or is this look at a 1-2-3 Phillip, Lariah, Burke, the way this race ends? A tip of the cap as well to Peter Irons, who had such a good night early. Started up front, but after the pit cycle strategy started to take hold, just never got back to the top step. He is some 8 seconds back, comfortably in 4th. Would be a really good result for a driver who's on the cusp of getting to the top 25. He may be able to point his way into the top 16 still, but a win would help his playoff case certainly as a late entry. He at 8 seconds back, Nieto at 14 seconds back. All those drivers wouldn't mind another restart to spice things up. Agnew Phillip, meanwhile, gonna feel like these 14 laps coming up are at Coda. They're gonna drag on and on and on as he wants to see the white flag for this race to be official.
Yeah, they're not long at all. They're, 31, 32 seconds apiece, depending upon your tires, but you're right, for him, they will last forever. However, for Michael Lariah, they're going to go by in just a snap of the finger, because he is losing ground quickly here. Last time by, Phillip was, almost a 1/10 of a second faster than Lariah.
And he continues to be a little bit better at 10th and change the last lap. It also seems like now that the Phillip and Lariah battle has simmered down, that opening that allowed Bradley Burke to catch up to them has closed. And on single car pace, Phillip still better than Lariah, still better than Burke. That 19 has fallen off a touch. They're actually both pretty equally spaced out at about 6 or 7 tenths of a second between each of the drivers inside of the top 3. Cam Patterson is 4 seconds up the road in 9th. He's the last car on the lead lap. He should be able to stay on the lead lap depending on pace. He may get caught. Landry 8th position, certainly not going to get lapped. It'll be interesting to see how many drivers, if this stays green, will finish this race on the lead lap. And now it's just a waiting game for Agnew Phillip, who again has been so good, winning at so many different racetracks. Funny enough, 7 wins, 13 starts, pretty dominant. I feel even funny mentioning Derek, but Agnew's on his worst streak of the year. He has not gone 3 races without a win at all in 2024. At one point, he won 5 in a span of 6 weeks. But it has been his teammates taking the glory for the last month and change at Charlotte, Sonoma, and Iowa. Phillip looking for his first win since May the 6th. That's not a long winless gap by any means, but for the 94, it's notable.
Yeah, it's I guess you call it a first world problem.
Yeah.
You've gone 3 races without a win.
First place problems, maybe?
Yeah, right. That's an interesting stat there to have, but man, he has really checked out over Lariah and over Bradley Burke. Once he got up front, you can see how much more comfortable he is with clean air ahead of him, because he is just pulled away in this race here. Well, here we go. It's 10 to go, and it feels like Agnew Phillip has checked out like a certain someone last week with 10 to go.
The waiting game continues for Agnew Phillip, a position in which he is no stranger to. It was the halfway break in this race at the end of lap number 76, in which Agnew Phillip was able to lock in 10 bonus points. He has led more than just a lap. He has also secured the most laps led. Agnew looking for a max points night of 52. Again, it is not really the points themselves that matter a ton for Agnew. It's all about the bonus points, and unlike the Larsons of the world in the NASCAR Cup Series, who could amass a ton of playoff points and carry them throughout the entirety of the playoffs. Each of these wins for Agnew will spell bonus points for the round of 16, but they will not extend beyond that. So he'll have a massive advantage for the round of 16, but then he'll have to go back to work because he'll have to race for wins in that round to get any benefit going into the round of 12 and deeper on as he looks to secure a three-peat and defend his Cup Series championships from 22 and 23. Last time we saw 3 consecutive was when Andrew Friedosh won 4 in a row, sweeping the titles from 2018 to 2021. On board with Burke, the gap between he and Lariah for second has closed in a touch at now 6 laps to go.
Yep, only 6 to go here. Look at this Bradley Burke, flirting with that apron. You talked earlier about how dangerous that is to be down there, and I agree with you. I'm surprised that he's getting that car down there and getting it back up and holding on to it in such a successful manner. Watch him again. He gets down there and then sort of drives the car back up, and wow, that is a strategy of all strategies right there to get the car that loose, I would think, on that transition and get it all settled in there. But, Evan, sometimes we come to New Hampshire, it's a driver who's provocative, that's always aggressive and maybe a little bit more bumping than other drivers and causing a couple of cautions. But tonight really felt like the track was the provocative one. It just sort of had its own mind of what it wanted to do and took some drivers to get used to it. The track was the opponent tonight, not the other drivers.
I almost thought for a minute we were at Phoenix with how low that car was. It reminds me of, I was going to say 3 and 4, but I guess what is now 1 and 2. My brain still struggles to comprehend the Phoenix numbering system, but yeah, way below the yellow line in 1 and 2. Kind of looks like the Ryan Newman line even at the old Phoenix when he drove it way down there and move somebody out of the way to make it into the championship for the Cup Series playoffs. I mean, Burke wants it bad, and honestly, hasn't been working out too bad. It's gotten him all the way to the bumper of Lariah now with 3 laps to go.
I'm just honestly concerned that what's going to happen, he's going to sweep that a little too hard one time and find himself at or into the back bumper of Lariah. But you're right, he's closing that gap here. I just get concerned over that move. Same as when people cut the dog leg at Phoenix, what this sort of reminds me of and how it's going to work. But there he is side by side. But see, the problem is he can't make it stick because he needs to track it out further. And he has a big roadblock there in the form of Michael Lariah.
What this battle has done, it has taken any little bit of pressure off of Agnew Phillip because he's well clear. To the inside is Burke, but he had to check way up to not go through the 44 in the center of the corner that time. And he will reload and try again. As on the top of your screen, Agnew Phillip looking for the white. One lap to go for Agnew Phillip. This race is official. Burke, maybe one last look onto the apron in turns 1 and 2. Lariah gets a little bit sideways. They'll go side by side down the back straightaway. Second spot up for grabs. Side by side into the final corner. As ahead of both of them, Agnew Phillip's dominant 2024 continues. Agnew Phillip wins at New Hampshire, and on the bottom, Bradley Burke, last lap, last corner pass, steals P2 from Michael Lariah.
Color me wrong, Evan. That move worked perfectly. Great job by Agnew Phillip to win this race, but great job by Bradley Burke to make that pass happen and worked on it and showed patience here at the end of this race.
Set it up multiple times. I think Lariah would have been okay, except he got loose on his own right. Exited turn number 2. There might have been a bit of a touch. That's what set this pass up for Burke. The disadvantage into the corner. I don't know if the 44 overthought it and was going to try to go for the crossover, but just did not have the speed on exit at all. It wasn't even a good turn 4 for Burke.
I'm surprised.
It was
Sorry, go ahead. I'm surprised the 44 didn't pinch him, honestly. That's what I was expecting to happen. I thought the 44 was going to get down to that bottom lane and sort of pinch Bradley down there, but it never came to be.
And it is a 7th win of the season for that man right there as Agnew Phillip continues the quest for the three-peat with a reverse burnout as well off of the inside wall. And that ProPublica Guild Chevrolet headed to a familiar place, and that is RealSimRacing Victory Lane. Well, he drives around and celebrates. Let's take a look at our full race results. Tonight, Agno Phillip gets the win by 2 seconds over Bradley Burke. Michael Araya again settling for the P3 to his Flat Out Esports teammate with that last lap, last turn pass. Burke finishing P2. 15 spots gained is tonight's hard charger. Peter Irons, Cody Harris, they get top fives. Both those cars led more than 20 laps tonight. It is an all Chevrolet top five ahead of Nieto, Gas, Landry, Patterson, and Coop, your top 10.
Moving back into P. Here can be Dylan Coyle, the first car lapped out with Maverick Davis, and then Brett Larson, Steve Soa, and Minazzi Major out at your top 15. And then Thomas George, Andrew Fainosh, Dalton Randolph, and Mike Maddox, 17, 18, 19. And then DeAndre Kane never started the race, so he'll finish P20 on the board, but really P nowhere when the race is official.
Top to bottom at your full race results, let's talk to the dominant car of the night, the dominant car of the season. It's another race win for Agno Phillip. And Agno, we were joking that you snapped the streak a whole 3 weeks without a trip to victory lane. It's been a lot of your teammates. You get your first since Darlington. Number 7 on the year, though. Max points leading at the midway break. Most laps led. Just seems like you guys continue to be on a roll.
Yeah, no, it was a good race. You know, I was able to get some track position early with the pit strategy and just kind of, you know, held serve from there. The tires, you know, held on pretty well. There wasn't a ton of fall off, so was able to kind of keep control of the race. And then I thought I had given it away actually on that pit cycle with Michael there, but you know, I was able to get back up to him and battle, and that was fun. It was good, clean, respectful racing there, and able to come out on top, which is even better.
Very interesting that at lap 44, guys are getting frustrated and shaking their heads. At that point, we had 5 single car spins. And then all of a sudden, not another one to the end of this race. Until that point, and even through that, you had yet to come down to pit in this. We had seen kind of 4 or 5 different tire strategies at one point, guys with 10 lap better tires than you, 20 laps better, 30 laps better. And then even when we went green there, they were just never able to get to you. Were you surprised at how quickly the race turned from a kind of caution fest to the green flag stretch? Because it seemed like when that happened, we were almost waiting for the cars on better tires to catch you. They never did, and you were able to kind of lead from a position of power.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you kind of expect at some point, you know, if there's a lot of cautions at a race, that typically at some point the cautions will stop and there'll be a long green run. I think that's usually the case. We have a pretty small field too, so it ends up being, you know, the percentages are a little bit more weighed in favor of there being long green runs. So I knew it was coming at some point. For a while, I just assumed that would be bad for me and the strategy that I was on, just because of the you know, I figured the guys who pitted, like, you know, one of the runs that could have gone green was one of those where they had quite a tire advantage on me. And, you know, we saw this last week at Iowa. I think, you know, Matt was able to, you know, get off cycle and just really race ahead on a really long green run by just having better tires than everybody. So I thought that was starting to play out again. And, you know, but it was just so hard to pass. And the tire just kind of like hit a plateau and you know, got there pretty fast. So I think the advantage those guys had went away pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's the nature of it. That's why I didn't want to, you know, when we had the pit cycle, I was trying to time it so that I would come out just in front of all those guys who pitted, and I pitted, I think, a lap too late. Michael and Peter almost was able to get me on that cycle, which was not what I was hoping for there, certainly. So, but yeah, it was super interesting the way the strategy played out. Felt very, you know, kind of how the real life product works, where you don't have a ton of fall off, and, you know, it's a lot of just kind of like strategic chess games of it.
Continue on with a trip to Pocono next week. Pocono is not a track that has always been on the calendar. It's been one of the odd ones out many times, but You had a runner-up finish there last year to Kevin King, so I assume you feel pretty good headed into the Tricky Triangle.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, that track has been decent for me. Obviously Kevin was really good last year, and I actually thought I was fairly even on pace with him for a lot of that race, but then he kind of drove away at the end. So we'll see. I mean, I really, it's hard to forecast too much when you go into some of these races. It'll be, there'll be a lot of draft kind of effects, and be kind of like these 1.5 mile races where everybody's just kind of like managing pace while managing track position and trying, to kind of have the best of both worlds with all of that. So, the track itself, I think I'm usually pretty fast there. We'll see what the competition, brings next week. If Drew shows up, he's always good. Michael's been running real well lately. Matt's always good, and Bradley and Sam and Cody, and Peter's been really fast in the few races he's been here. There's Brandon. I don't want to forget anybody. There's a ton of guys who are certainly have the pace, so can't take anything for granted, certainly.
And it's the middle part of the season when I just completely forget that Nashville is next in Pocono in a couple of weeks' time. Okay. It keeps things on trend for you, though, because you had a top 3 at Nashville anyways the last time out, Dag. Yeah. We'll let you get back to the guys and celebrate, but before we do, as always, who makes it happen for you?
Hey, I got to give a shout out to my colleagues at the ProPublica Guilds. Go check out our award-winning investigative work at ProPublica.org. I thank the guys over at 851 Pro and Lockdown Racing for their support and their help through the Road to Pro season, round 2 starting in a couple weeks. So excited about that, and looking forward to the rest of the season. Thanks to you, Evan, for putting this on.
Appreciate you being a part of these races on Monday Night Diagonal. Again, congratulations on the win, and thanks for chatting.
Appreciate it, Evan. Thanks.
It's your race winner tonight from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I'll toss things back over to Derek, who's got the rest of our podium. It's first up with Bradley Burke, who made that exciting pass last lap, last turn. He ends up in second.
Well, I'll tell you what, Evan, there's not an award for like a pass the night or move the night, but if there was, it belongs to Bradley Burke. Bradley, that pass on the white flag lap is excellence. That's a chef's kiss of passing at a course like this. How confident were you that pass was going to stick?
To be honest, I wasn't that confident, and if anybody knows the history of RSR, I tried that move in the Winter Series once, and actually got me suspended because I dumped the guy for the win, but that one went a little bit better. It was definitely sketchy, but I had practiced it just slightly and practiced before the race, and I felt like I could maybe make it work.
Man, it felt like you tried it for many laps. You just kind of kept getting closer and closer, and at one point, you were almost getting stalled in momentum because Michael was on the outside. I'm impressed by the move. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't sure it was going to stick. I thought maybe you were going to get the car loose down on the apron, and wow, what a great night for you in P2.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It definitely makes it a little bit sketchier when you're racing a teammate like that, and you're on old tires, but once I tried it a couple times, I realized there was more grip down there than I even anticipated. So I just kept after it, and luckily Michael races me clean all the time, and we had a good battle, and it worked out.
There you go. Well, next week we move on to the Nashville Superspeedway. So I'd be remiss if I ask you, Bradley, how many country songs do you know?
Too many.
Oh, okay. Sweet. So you'll be able to keep up with all the references next week when we have all the country music references. And I suspect, I don't know if Evan knows country music, but we're going to give him some references to sneak into the broadcast next week.
I'll be looking forward to that. I'll definitely be able to catch him.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, listen, great job tonight. Great run in P2, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, that's Bradley Burke, driver of the 19 machine, finishing P2. Now let's move on to Michael Lariah. Michael, you and I talked last week after that impressive run at the end of the race, and still an impressive run here this week, but P3. Were you surprised Bradley got that past the stick?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but he was making a lot of time up the last 10 laps or so, and I kind of saw that he was running more of a unorthodox line there using the apron, but it wasn't only until I looked at the replay after the race and I realized how long he was wrapping the apron itself. So definitely props to him for figuring something out there at the end. I kind of saw what he was doing, but not the full extent because I was having to focus forward, and I was like, do I try to take his line away? Do I try to maybe aero block a little bit? But I'm like, I'll try it, and then I'm gonna wreck or just give up so much time trying to attempt it. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stick with more conservative approach. Maybe he'll slip up, and that'll be enough. And just one lap too long there, and he got to me. And again, props to him for figuring something out like that.
Was there any thoughts of just kind of pinching that run on the white flag lap?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was hoping that I could just kind of get the car to stick in the middle. He was gonna have to wash up, but then he would have to check up right in the center of the corner. I'd have a better run off and take up all the space on the outside there. And going into 1 and 2 on the last lap there, I got a little bit loose as the car went across the seams, and I slipped up just enough to give him that extra room coming off a 2 to have him get a good run on me. And that's really all it took. And I was like, going into 3, maybe I'll beat him with a better run off of 4 using that higher line, but he was just making his car stick so well. So, I felt like I did what I could there, but he certainly did a good job just kind of conserving his stuff and making that charge.
All right, well, great run tonight. Of course, won last week, P3 tonight. And so I got to ask, we're going to move to Nashville next week. Are you excited for the track? Do you like the track? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that race. That's been one of my best tracks as of late. I've always had top 3 speed there, and I'm really looking forward to going into that race, and I feel like that's going to be just another opportunity for me to compete for a win. I don't expect as many cautions there as we had tonight, so I think we're going to get some long green flag runs there, and it's going to be all about, just running some consistent laps and managing your long run pace overall. But it's really just a game of hitting your marks and getting the car right on that bottom. And I think it's a yellow line there, just wrapping that yellow line. So again, all about discipline, but I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, well, listen, great run, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, that's Michael O'Reilly, driver of the 44. Well, Evan, that just about wraps up New Hampshire for this week. And I'll tell you what, next week, they might be walking in Memphis, but I think we're racing in Nashville.
But I'll tell you what, the number 1 radio, actually, I think the number 2 radio presets in my car, funny enough, both country stations.
Here we go. Let's go.
Not guess it, but I am excited. The Nashville Super Speedway, in fact, one of only a handful of NASCAR tracks that I've been to. It's a fun facility just outside of the city in Lebanon. The iRacing scan is missing all the Amazon warehouses on the backstretch. I've had some really watered down Bud Lights and hot dogs, funny enough, at that racetrack, but that's a story for a caution next week when we head to the Nashville Super Speedway. And again, these drivers should enjoy, because after Nashville, a week off, after Indianapolis, 2 weeks off, and then it is full bore 13 weeks to the end of the year. So things may feel like they're slowing down just a little bit. Some drivers may get a bit annoyed by that, especially in Agno Phillip or the A51 Pro X Altus guys who are in such a rhythm, but maybe enjoy those slower moments when you can, because they're going to be few and far between for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it in Nashville 1 week from tonight. Have a great time there, and I'm excited. Let's get going here. I'm happy to be back with RSR.
And we're excited to have all of you joining us again next time out. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from New Hampshire. On behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing, RaceSpotTV, and your broadcast team tonight, for our producer Joshua Lee, for Derek Watson, my name is Evan Pasoko. Congratulations to Agno Phillip, a 7-time race winner so far in 2024. We're back in 1 week's time. That is Monday, June 24th at iRacing Racing's virtual Nashville Super Speedway. That race and every race of the 2024 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found exclusively right here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from the Granite State.